Mine appellation is Nicole. In the prime of my years, I find myself at the age of 32, residing in a quaint hamlet, a mere 50 minutes' journey from the bustling heart of Boston. Each morn, I brew a cup of rich espresso, lend mine ear to the tidings of the weather, and then embark upon a stroll to my office, a mere stone's throw from my abode. As a co-founder of a venture in the realm of biotechnology, I find myself in a role that is oftentimes difficult to elucidate, particularly to those who perceive the office as merely a domain of ceaseless data entry. Mine kin hath ne'er comprehended mine pursuits, or perchance they cared not to delve into my endeavors. To them, I have ever been the peculiar younger sister, the one adorned in simplicity, eschewing the artifice of cosmetics, and perpetually tethered to her device or engaged in some discourse. Claire, mine elder sister, is the one of whom they boast with great pride. She doth possess 3 years more than I, and in their gaze, she hath ever been the epitome of a flawless daughter. Fair, elegant, gentle of speech, and enchanting. In the captured moments of kin, I remained but a mere wisp, lingering in the periphery of Claire's radiant glow. On the festive occasions of Thanksgiving or Christmas, kin would assemble around her, showering her with commendations. Fair Claire, thou art a vision of beauty in that splendid gown. O Claire, thy new suitor doth possess the noble title of physician. Most commendable. And what of me? If perchance anyone recalled my presence, the refrain would oft be, Nicole, she doth engage in some pursuit within the realm of biotech, I believe. They did converse as though I were but a mere annotation, lingering at the foot of the page. In days of yore, I believed that through diligent toil and remaining in the shadows, bearing the weight of burdens, there would come a time when my progenitors would behold my efforts and swell with pride, akin to their admiration for Claire. Yet, alas, it cannot be. All the gaze, all the hopes, all the praises, they were ever directed towards her. And what of me? I have ever been remote, austere, and difficult to engage in discourse. They were blissfully unaware that I toiled at the office until the stroke of midnight, grappling with a tempest for a public health endeavor valued at nearly $2 million, not a penny less. They ne'er inquired of the toil and triumph it taketh to forge a venture from naught alongside 3 companions of academia. When inquiries arise regarding my kin, I merely offer a subtle smile and declare, we have not exchanged words in quite some time. It is but a trifling matter. Not forsooth that I conceal aught, but rather for the reason that naught remains to utter. It hath been nigh 2 years since our last discourse. Neither missives nor salutations, nor even the cheer of a birthday's remembrance. Lo, a hush prevails, akin to a severed thread left unattended, yearning for the touch of restoration. Once did I hold the notion that kin was the haven to which one could ever find their way back. Yet, on the day that marked my mother's birth, that conviction was rent asunder. It was the waning days of March. Lo, I hath just sealed a prosperous accord with a firm of investment hailing from the grand city of New York. With great intention, I resolved to seize 3 days of respite and journey back forthwith to assist my parents in the preparations for my mother's celebration, as has been my custom through the years. Nothing of grandeur. Verily, I sought only to lend mine aid, as is my custom. Upon my calling to impart the tidings, it was my father who did answer the call. I do intend to return with haste. Pray, inform me if there be aught thou requirest me to procure or ready, I did declare. His voice lingers in my memory, a haunting echo of days gone by. Not wrathful, merely unusual. A brief interlude, then he didst clear his throat. Dearest Nicole, if it be within thy power, I beseech thee, refrain from returning home this year. I paused for a moment, pondering if perchance he was concerned that I was too engrossed in my labors. Fear not, dear father. My agenda hath been rendered free of all engagements. Verily, my heart doth yearn to be present in that place. This time, his voice did resonate with unwavering strength. Fair Cole, Claire doth bring forth her new suitor. He doth hold the title of Chief Financial Officer. Articulate and undeniably triumphant. What dost thou do for a living? Verily, it is a challenge to elucidate. Thy presence would but summon comparisons and render the atmosphere most uncomfortable. Verily, 'tis wise for thee to remain. I became as still as the quiet night. Mine breast did constrict, a frigid pang creeping down my spine. I grasped the device with fervent intensity and, with teeth tightly pressed, inquired, "Dost thou imply that I bring shame upon our kin? That I ought not return to my abode, for I am a source of shame?" He did not retract his words. Indeed, he did reaffirm his stance with great fervor. "If thou dost insist on attending, then do not address me as your progenitor." Then he didst sever the connection. Without a moment's pause, no further contemplation, mine abode fell into a most uncanny silence. The vessel of dark brew that I clasped had succumbed to the chill of time. I gazed into the void, as though the very fabric of existence had been rent asunder by but a solitary utterance. Mine eyes did not weep. There I remained, ensconced in stillness. And for the first time in my existence, a revelation dawned upon me. I found myself estranged from the kin I had endeavored with great toil to unite. In my accustomed seat by the window, I lingered, as the tender rays of early spring sought to penetrate the white drapery, yet failed to dispel the lingering frost within my soul. My sire's utterances resounded once more, distinct and conclusive. "If thou dost insist on attending, then do not address me as your progenitor." Mine eyes did gaze upon my hands. Mine fingers did quiver, not from wrath, but from a wellspring more profound. The moment of fracture. In my heart, I had long believed that though I may never know the love bestowed upon Claire, I would forever hold the title of their daughter. It doth appear I was not. With a resolute spirit, I rose and made my way to the desk that awaited my presence. With nary a moment's pause, I didst unveil my trusty device and didst access the realm of my financial affairs. For more than 2 years, I have been dispatching funds to my progenitors each month, ensuring their electric bill, water, internet, and even cable are duly attended to. Close to $600, not but 0 cents each month, not including the additional sums I would dispatch when mother proclaimed the icebox had faltered or father's carriage required mending. They did not inquire whether I possessed the means to bear the cost. It hath been declared that Claire doth grapple with her new employment. If thou art able to lend thy assistance, it would be most splendid. And I did lend my aid, softly and with great restraint, as though it were mine own obligation. As though duty were an unseen pact, I had sealed the instant I commenced my toil for coin. I did unseal the ledger of transactions and perused its contents. The sum did arise: $15,720.00. Mine heart did plummet. Not for any sorrow I held within. Yet, despite all that hath transpired, I found myself forever lacking. I didst hover o'er each bill. Current, aqua, connectivity. Hark! A sound doth echo. Then another, perchance. Messages didst appear unbidden. Thy auto-payment hath been cancelled with great success. No disturbances. No forewarnings dost thou receive. Only a hush prevails, as if I have perpetually dwelt within the confines of my kin. Upon that eve, slumber eluded me, not for the sake of wrath. Yet, as I pondered upon the manner in which all did transpire, concerning the words my father did utter, lo, how my kin did conspire to cast me aside, all in a bid to win the favor of Claire's new-found suitor, a gentleman whose visage I had yet to behold. Throughout my existence, I have faced comparisons aplenty, yet never before had I encountered such a public dismissal, as though my very being were but a burden upon this world. Lo, the day of my mother's birth did approach with great haste. I did not make the call. I did not dispatch a missive of greeting. Mine own voice hath not been cast upon the digital realm. Not from malice, but for I could no longer don the mask of pretense. At the stroke of 5, whilst I reclined upon my balcony, indulging in a cup of peppermint tea, mine device did buzz with a sudden call to attention. It was my mother. I gazed upon the screen for but a fleeting moment, then allowed it to succumb to darkness. A missive arrived forthwith. "Fair Nicole, prithee tell, what hath caused the darkness to descend upon us? Couldst thou lend thine eye to our request?" I laid aside my cup of tea and unfurled the subsequent missive from my father. "Alas, no water dost flow. Alas, the web doth elude me. Summon forth the purveyors. Your mother doth find herself in a state of great distress." In quietude I lingered, mine eyes steadfast upon the verdant boundary yonder. Let not wrath take hold. There is no anguish, merely a haunting stillness. They did not inquire, "Dost thou fare well?" Speak not a syllable regarding the discourse upon the device. They merely wished for me to continue in the manner I had ever performed. Rectify the disarray. Then forthwith arrived a missive from Claire. The web of connectivity lies in disarray, as visitors approach, and mother's countenance is beset with sorrow. "What tidings dost thou bring?" I didst grasp my device, and inscribed upon its surface, "3 weeks hence." My sire did declare that if I were to persist in my return, I ought not to refer to him as my progenitor. I am merely fulfilling his request. If this be a source of discomfort, perhaps seek out an individual whom thou art not loath to present. I did not dispatch it. It hath been cast away, not from a place of remorse, but from the understanding that, regardless of my utterances, they would perceive only that which aligned with their desires. I didst place the device upon the table, reclined in mine chair, and shut mine eyes in contemplation. Mine humble abode lay in tranquil silence, a stillness enveloping the air. All is well. No scornful gazes. No entreaties. Upon the morrow, Claire did leave a missive upon the device of voice. "Mother hath wept since the eve's descent. Art thou aware of the significance that yesterday did hold? Upon the occasion of my beloved's inaugural encounter with my kin, alas, all did descend into chaos. Thou art most self-serving." I hearkened to the entirety of the missive, then silenced my device. For many a year, I found myself lacking in the art of self-regard. Now the hour hath come. Upon the dawning of the day, I didst peruse mine work email and scrutinize the report of operations from the weekend past. One line of inquiry did indeed capture the eye. The personnel from New Jersey embark upon a journey to the fair city of Boston. In eager anticipation of the decree, I did unseal the list that was affixed, perused the names with haste, and then I did cease my course. Liam Prescott, a name that doth echo through the corridors of time. That name did cause my heart to flutter with a sudden thrill. It lingered in my mind, for merely 3 days past, my mother had spoken of it. Claire's beloved, Liam, doth toil at a grand establishment of commerce. I gazed upon the parchment with narrowed eyes. Present standing. Chief of the Treasury, New Jersey Outpost. To embark upon a journey to the esteemed headquarters of Boston, I seek the favor of the approver. Fair Nicole Warren. Co-founder, a title of noble distinction. I didst emit a gentle chuckle. Merely a response of the spirit. The realm appeared more diminutive than I had once perceived. And I was aware. What was to unfold had merely taken its first breath. I remained motionless before my device, my hand poised upon the mouse, my heart a vacant chamber, as though a fragment of my recollection, which I had cherished for an eternity, had been wrenched away. Almost $16,000. Not a single coin to be had. Each coin of it tendered by my hand, month upon month, without the need for reminders, nor any delays to mar the passage of time. And yet, not a single time did they utter the words of gratitude. Not a single time. I perused the ledger of payments, whereupon the same entries didst echo in a relentless refrain. 292 shillings and 48 pence, the cost of my illumination hath come to pass. $136.72, forsooth, the price of my water. $248.50, for mine internet and cable hath been laid upon me. Month upon month, as though I were their unremunerated steward of finances. Concealed from sight. Unrecognized. Forsaken. In the twilight hours, a year past, I recall the final discourse with my mother, when she did ring me, her voice echoing through the night, exclaiming, "Nicole! Lo, the pipe within the chamber hath burst forth. Couldst thou summon another soul?" Fair Claire doth embark upon a journey, accompanied by her beloved swain. Thou art the sole remnant that remains. Thou art the sole remnant that doth remain. It did appear innocuous, yet it bore the weight of a harsh reality. In truth, I was not cherished as a daughter ought to be. I found myself to be the remedy when those of true affection did not appear. And now, having been advised to refrain from returning, for my very presence cast a shadow upon the scene, I have at last grasped the truth of the matter. Throughout the passage of time, naught that I endeavored was met with affection. In moments of necessity, I found myself but a fleeting thought, summoned only when debts demanded settling or quandaries sought resolution. Yet, in my hour of need, nary a soul could be found to lend their aid. Lo! My device did illuminate once more, bearing tidings from my mother. Dearest Nicole, though the air was fraught with tension yestermorn, I beseech thee to attend to the matter of the Internet bill, for such a deed would be most appreciated. Claire doth endeavor to maintain a serene atmosphere amidst the gathering of guests. I gazed upon the missive as though I were a mere spectator, distanced from its essence. No contrition shall be offered. Not a word of the harsh dismissal from my progenitor. Yet another entreaty, as is customary. I laid the device aside, silent and unresponsive. I did venture forth unto the porch, taking my seat upon the wooden chair beneath the waning rays of the April sun. Though Boston's warmth had yet to grace the land, the brisk air did impart a certain clarity to my thoughts. I pondered upon Liam, the suitor of fair Claire, who soon shall join the ranks of my employ. The irony, indeed! Mine kin did cast me aside from the celebration of my mother's birth, all due to him, whilst he was on the verge of delivering tidings straight to me. If existence were a jest, this would surely be its most exquisite jesting point. I didst return to mine desk, and didst open the missive that lay before me. The header did indeed capture the eye. Confirmation of the new hire, Liam Prescott. Convey thyself to the office in Boston. I didst click upon the profile. All things were in perfect accord. Years, wisdom, accolades. A finely crafted curriculum vitae. Verily, 'tis precisely the sort that Claire would be drawn to. Learned, accomplished, and beguiling in prose. Upon gazing at the image that hath been affixed, I pondered its essence. Something akin to a well-known tale. Then I did recall. We did encounter each other in fleeting moments at a gathering of minds some 6 moons past. He grasped my hand with a courteous demeanor, addressing me as co-founder Warren, yet the bond between us remained unformed. Or perchance, I held no affection for Claire that would compel me to inquire about the gentleman at her side. Now I found myself at a crossroads. Grant thy consent to the transfer, or refuse it henceforth. Yet I was aware that no action was required of me. Life had penned the most exquisite tale. Lo, I found myself in a moment of quietude, pondering the unfolding tale as Claire, in her innocence, would soon discover the truth of her beloved's betrayal to the very sister who brought shame upon their kin. Upon the morrow, Liam didst make his entrance into the office. He did enter my presence, bearing a folder, his visage marked by a subtle tension. Upon raising mine gaze, I beheld his eyes fixate upon me, then they did widen in astonishment. "Fair Nicole?" he inquired with gentle words. I didst smile faintly, serene and composed in my demeanor. "Hark! Thou art welcomed to the realm of Pacific genomics. I shall undertake a thorough examination of the financial scheme for this quarter. I eagerly anticipate the opportunity to collaborate with thee." Liam stood still, as if time itself had paused around him. His visage, once aglow with fervor, did swiftly fade to a pallid hue. None among my kin were aware that I played a part in the founding of this enterprise. None hath inquired of mine true endeavors. They did presume me to be naught but a mere functionary, toiling away at a humble desk. I spake no further, but did guide the parchment forth to him. Liam accepted it with a silent grace and departed the chamber. I reclined in my seat, allowing the weight of the world to rest upon my shoulders. Mine heart was heavy with discontent. Mine heart was not heavy. At last, it seemed as though the fates had conspired to shift the course of my fortunes. And on this occasion I found myself silent, without the need for utterance. The verity hath proclaimed its own tale. On the morn of my dear mother's birth anniversary, the heavens above Boston donned a cloak of uncharacteristic gray. A dense mist enveloped the surroundings, rendering all things indistinct, as if the very realm were poised for some grand revelation to unfold. I filled my cup with a robust brew, took my seat by the window, and gazed upon the desolate yard. By no design did I intend to embark upon any endeavor. Neither missives nor calls, nor a celebration of the day of birth dost come forth. I merely desired that events unfold in their own manner, devoid of my presence. At the hour of 9 in the morn, mine device did emit a gentle buzz. Hark! A missive from mother hath arrived. Dearest Nicole, it appears that the light of our abode has been extinguished. Couldst thou lend thine eye to our request? It is a day of great significance. Upon the table I did lay the phone, its face turned downwards, as if to shroud its secrets from the gaze of the world. Alike in manner, fair and tender, as if naught had ever transpired. As if my progenitor had not imparted unto me that I brought shame upon our lineage, and ought not to make my presence known. Lo, a quarter hour hence, a second missive did arrive. This missive hails from my father. Power doth remain elusive. The flow of water doth not run, either. Is there a misfortune with the payments? Hasten thee to summon the provider forthwith. Brief. Chilled to the very bone. No worry doth linger. There is no word of mine being cast aside from the revelry of the gathering. Merely a decree. As though I remained their steward of logistics. I did let forth a heavy sigh. For 2 years, I have not faltered in my obligations, missing not a single payment. Electricity, water, the web of connectivity, and the flow of entertainment. One by one, I did cancel them all, on that fateful night when my father did hang up and cleave all ties asunder. Forsooth, I found mine own self a challenge to present. And lo, upon the very day when Clare didst present her suitor to the kin, the abode was beset by tumult and disorder. There exists no current to illuminate the abode. Alas, no water dost remain. Alas, the web doth elude me. As fate would have it, precisely as anticipated. By the hour of 11, a torrent of messages didst arrive. Mother, fair Nicole, pray, do grant me this favor. I beseech thee. Lo, the guests doth arrive. Pray, grant thy assistance but this once. Father, alas, the absence of electric light doth cast a shadow upon our abode. We possess not the art of culinary creation. Whither dost thou wander? Attend to this matter forthwith. Fair Clare. Verily, dear Nicole, this day doth bear a certain charm. Mother's eyes brim with tears, a tempest of emotion brewing within her heart. Alas, the web of connectivity is absent. Alas, I find myself unable to summon any soul. Mine sanity doth wane in this tumultuous hour. Pray, wouldst thou cease thy self-serving ways? I reclined in repose. Mine cup of brew hath turned to chill. The writings did not bestow upon me a sense of vindication. They did not fulfill my desires. All I sensed was a profound void. A still and steadfast void. Then once more did the device emit a gentle vibration. A missive of visual communion from Aunt Sharon hath arrived. The sole soul within the household who continued to dispatch festive missives, though my replies were but a rare occurrence. With a moment's pause, I did respond. Her ancient kitchen revealed itself, illuminated solely by the glow of a mobile device's light. She appeared weary, her eyes tinged with a hint of crimson. Nicole, she uttered with gentle grace, thy mother doth find herself in a state of great distress. The abode lies shrouded in shadows. All are in a flurry, dashing hither and thither, and none can discern the path to take. I uttered not a word, merely gazed upon her. She didst pause, then added, neither in accusation nor in defense. What dost thou inquire of? Thou hast ne'er let the day of thy mother's birth slip through thy fingers. Pray, I beseech thee, though thou hast thy justifications, utter a word. I inhaled deeply, striving to maintain a steady tone in my speech. Mine own father did declare that I hath brought shame upon our kin. He did declare that should I persist in my coming, I must henceforth refrain from calling him my father. What course of action dost thou propose I take henceforth? Aunt Sharon stood as still as a statue. Her visage transformed in a fleeting moment. In the distance, a clamor did arise. My mother doth proclaim with great volume, she is likely but in a state of sulking. No soul could possess such a callous heart to commit this deed. Then a more piercing tone. Fair Clare, the hour draws nigh when Liam shall arrive. Pray, summon forth the power company without delay. Alas, I find it hard to fathom the treachery she hath wrought upon us this day. I bestowed a faint, mirthless grin. Aunt Sharon didst hear all that transpired. She offered no defence for any soul, uttered not a single syllable. And then, quite suddenly, the canvas did alter its visage. A visage most novel did grace the scene. Good morrow, Liam. Identical tidy attire. Such refined articulation as found within his curriculum vitae. He gazed upon the screen, and with a sudden burst of emotion, he exclaimed, "Nicole!" All fell into a hushed stillness. "Art thou Nicole Warren, the esteemed steward of Pacific Genomics?" I did incline my head, gaze unwavering. A protracted silence ensued. Then Liam didst turn to all present in the chamber. "She doth hold the rank above mine own," and the one who granted my passage to Boston, left in a state of astonished quietude. Claire's jaw did verily descend in astonishment. Mine progenitors stood as statues, caught in a moment of disbelief. Silence reigned supreme, as not a soul uttered a sound. I did respond with a tranquil heart, wishing that thy introduction this day doth unfold with great success. Thus, I did conclude the discourse. Upon the conclusion of the discourse, I laid my device aside in silence, uttering not a single word henceforth. Beyond the casement, the feeble rays of the waning day did but timidly pierce the heavy shroud of ashen clouds. All that surrounded me was steeped in silence, a hush so profound it seemed to blur the lines of reality. Silence reigns, devoid of messages, nor the sound of ringing phones. Alone I stand, embraced by an ethereal lightness of spirit, following a revelation not wrought by mine own hand, but bestowed upon me by others. I had no desire to unveil any soul. I remained mute, allowing all to transpire as fate intended. Liam had declared it with utmost clarity. In stature, I stood above him, a co-creator of Pacific Genomics, a venture they mistakenly believed I merely occupied a humble desk within. In that fleeting instant, the hearth of my kin transformed into a grand theatre, where the veils of pretense didst descend, one after another, and none could halt their descent. And Claire, my sister, who once did softly convey to our mother that Nicole ought to select a vocation more easily presented, now stood as if turned to stone beside a birthday cake that had yet to be ignited. She did strive with great fervor to win the admiration of her beloved through hollow praises and an idyllic portrayal of kin, yet it was he, her very suitor, who, in a moment of public display, did refer to me as master before all assembled. In my mind's eye, I beheld the tableau as though it were a performance unfolding once more before me. Mine own mother, in such a flurry, that she came perilously close to letting the cake tray slip from her grasp. Mine own sire, visage aflame, clutching the table's edge with fervent grasp. And the kinfolk, those who appeared solely for sustenance and scrutiny, sat in bewildered quietude, their gazes flitting about as they endeavored to comprehend the events that had just unfolded. And Aunt Sharon still held the call, her gaze transformed from mere curiosity to a semblance of respect. She uttered not a word, merely bestowed upon me a slight nod ere she concluded the call. On that fateful eve, I received the inaugural missive from Claire. Prolonged, chaotic, a blend of ire and despair. "Thou wert aware from the very beginning, were thee not? Thou didst permit such folly to unfold amidst the revelry? Mother hath wept through the dark hours, whilst Liam stands, lost in the tempest of his own thoughts, unsure of how to respond to such sorrow. Pray, dost thou not perceive the cruelty in that, dear Nicole?" I beheld the missive appear upon my screen, yet I did not hasten to unveil it forthwith. I brewed a cup of ginger tea and reclined upon the couch, allowing the fragrant steam to soothe the constriction in my throat. Neither did joy's sweet embrace alight upon my heart, nor did the weight of guilt press upon my soul. After a span of 10 minutes, I did at last summon the courage to respond. Merely a handful of verses, forsooth, no greater need doth arise. "Thou dost claim I was unkind?" Verily, I found myself within the confines of mine own abode. The video call was not initiated by me. I did not proclaim myself as his superior. Verily, I have partaken in naught. What if but a solitary truth could bring ruin upon the entire revelry? Perchance that gathering was never founded upon a firm foundation from the very outset. I did strike the button to dispatch my missive. I did not anticipate a response. Lo, a mere half-hour hence, my device did vibrate once more. This occasion it was my mother. The missive was brief. Never did I foresee that thou wouldst select such a path to exact thy vengeance upon the kin. I didst shut mine eyes and reclined in mine chair. Return hence. Did they truly believe this to be the case? Lo, I find myself recalling a time when I was cast aside from a gathering of kin, my station as a daughter rendered naught, forsooth, due to the lack of grandeur in my vocation. In solemn reflection, I recalled the silent act of settling numerous debts over the span of 2 years, with nary a word of inquiry to break the stillness. In the echoes of my past, I recall the fervent quest for acceptance and affection, yet now I find myself weary of the pursuit. At the hour of 10 in the evening, an electronic missive from Liam did arrive in mine inbox. Dear Nicole, I lament that I was not aware of this matter ere now. I hold you in high regard for your endeavors and for the manner in which you maintained your silence this day. Never have I felt such a weight of shame, yet it is not thine actions that bear the burden. I perused the words, then responded with measured cadence. Good Sir Liam, thou art not in need of such contrition. Each soul bears the weight of their own gaze upon their fellow beings. Fear not, for I shan't entwine matters of kin with my toil, yet I trust thou dost comprehend my sentiments now. At times, the absence of sound doth wield the mightiest power. I did press the send, then extinguished the glow of my screen, laying the device upon the table, its face turned away from sight. On the morrow, I shall venture to mine office as per the customary routine. There would be missives to peruse, gatherings to ready oneself for, and a realm ever revolving beyond the threshold. Yet, at this moment, there existed but a singular distinction. From this day forth, those who once cast me aside have at last come to recognize my true essence. And without a solitary cry, devoid of any charges, I had rendered them mute. The following morn, as I entered my chamber of toil, rays of sunlight did weave through the glass panes, bestowing a warm, golden radiance upon the space. The atmosphere lay still, as though the cosmos had bestowed upon me a fleeting respite to inhale deeply ere the clamor of the day resumed. I took my seat at the desk, ignited the device before me, and perused my correspondence as was my custom. Within the esteemed priority inbox, there lay a solitary message yet to be perused. Messenger. Liam Prescott. I didst click it. Topic. Forgive me, I beseech thee. Fare thee well, Nicole. In truth, I find myself at a loss for beginnings, for after the events of yesternight, slumber eludes me. Upon reflection, my thoughts have wandered. What transpired, perchance, ought not to have unfolded before such a multitude. Yet, in this very moment, I am beset by an unusual lucidity, particularly concerning thee. I harbor no shame in acknowledging thee as the sister of Claire. Alas, I find myself in a state of regret for not perceiving her genuine nature ere now. In a union where the very essence of respect is absent, I find myself unable to linger. As of this day, I shall bring to a close my entanglement with Claire. I express my gratitude for thy silence on the day past, and I express my gratitude for the manner in which thou dost guide. Silent yet resolute and just. Good Sir, Liam. Upon perusing it twice, I reclined in my seat, lost in contemplation. Mine heart was heavy at the tidings of Claire's misfortune in love. A fleeting sensation did cross my mind. Indeed, as if, for the very first occasion, an outsider beheld the burdens I had borne in silence for countless years. The matters upon which I was deemed overly tender, or too frigid for my silence therein. I did not respond. There existed no necessity. Yet, after the passage of 2 hours, whilst I perused the financial summary bestowed upon me by the finance team, my device did illuminate with a sudden glow. A missive from Claire. Dearest Nicole, I am well aware of thy many engagements, yet I beseech thee, couldst thou converse with Liam on my behalf? He doth misconstrue all that is before him. I beheld the missive, serene and unperturbed. I did not respond forthwith. In but a trice, another missive did arrive. Thou art his superior. Thou dost possess great sway. If thou dost utter a word, he shall ponder anew. I rose from my seat and approached the window, my eyes cast upon the bustling thoroughfare beneath. Throughout the passage of time, I longed for but a single word from Claire, a gentle inquiry to ease my suffering. One gentle whisper of solace in the face of my defeat. Yet, Naught was found. And now that her bond had shattered, the soul she sought solace in was none other than I. Not to offer excuses, but to mend the matter at hand. Upon my return to the desk, I set my fingers to the keys and began to compose. Liam did not depart on account of aught I uttered. He departed due to thine essence. And perchance for the very first occasion, he truly beheld it. Claire did not respond forthwith. Yet, lo and behold, an hour hence, a fresh missive did arrive. Thou art correct. Yet, I find myself most unwilling to part with him. Pray, grant me this chance for transformation, I beseech thee. Only this time, perchance. I held my tongue, not out of ire, but rather from a weariness that rendered further explanation a futile endeavor. As I departed from the office that eve, the nascent spring zephyr remained brisk, yet the setting sun bestowed a rich amber luminescence upon the rooftops. With measured steps, I strolled to the parking lot, unhurried and untroubled by the cares of the world. Perhaps for the first occasion in many a year, I felt a sense of buoyancy. Revenge was not my quest. I have merely walked the path of my own verity, allowing all else to unfold in due course. Claire had woven this conclusion from the threads of her own making. And Liam, once beguiled by the semblance of an idyllic kin, had at last perceived the bedrock below, the very one upon which I had dwelt for the greater part of my existence. On that eve, I indulged in a collection of melodies from yore, the sort that once rendered me unseen amidst the fervor of my nascent endeavors. Yet this eve, the harmonies did resonate as a gentle confirmation. I had emerged from the depths of obscurity, not through loud proclamations, but by steadfast resolve. And thus it was that Claire, or any kin of mine, had ne'er anticipated such a turn of fate. No longer do I seek the approval of others. I sought only to embrace my true essence, and to dwell in the realm of what is rightfully mine. Upon the passage of a week, when tranquillity had once more settled upon my abode, there came a rare Sunday afternoon, wherein I resolved to forego the embrace of my laptop. It was then that the sound of the doorbell did break the stillness. Lo! I was taken by surprise, and nearly didst dismiss it altogether. Yet, a curious impulse compelled mine eye to peer through the small aperture. Mine progenitors did stand at the threshold. I remained motionless for a brief moment, allowing my thoughts to align with the spectacle before mine eyes. Mine mother grasped a modest satchel, her visage weary and worn. My father stood with his arms folded, his gaze softer than in our previous discourse, yet still bearing that familiar rigidity. I did unbar the portal. Uttered naught. "Greetings, my dear," my mother did proclaim first, her voice a weary whisper as if she had just alighted from a lengthy journey through the skies. "Pray, may we enter and engage in discourse for a brief while?" I did quietly withdraw, granting them passage within. No embraces, no cordial salutations, merely a profound stillness extending from the corridor to the parlor. I didst pour forth some water, placed 2 goblets upon the table, and took my seat across from them. My mother surveyed the dwelling, modest and orderly, entirely devoid of any trace of my progenitors. My father did commence the discourse. "Concerning the celebration of thy maternal figure's day of birth?" I did utter words that were ill-advised. I remained silent. He cast his gaze upon me, then proceeded, with a measured pace this time. "Perchance we have been somewhat stern in our judgments upon thee. Since the parting of ways, Claire hath been in disarray, and thy mother hath wept without cease. Thus, we yearn to gather and converse as kin." I remained silent, merely inclining my head with a subtle gesture. I yearned to discern the path upon which they were embarking. Accustomed was I to the protracted prelude ere they arrived at the true essence of their quest. As I had foreseen, my mother did indeed intervene forthwith. "Verily, we do possess a proposal indeed." With a moment's pause, she set the bag upon the table and drew forth a printed sheet. "We have pondered it deeply. Thou art now in a state of steadiness, thy occupation doth flourish splendidly. If it pleases you, we beseech your assistance with a monthly offering. Approximately $2,000, and not a single cent more. Merely sufficient to meet the demands of daily sustenance, safeguard against unforeseen calamities, and lay aside a modest sum for the twilight of one's years." I cast mine eyes upon her visage. "2,000 a month, dost thou say?" My father leapt forth, as though he feared I might misconstrue the matter at hand. "It doth not amount to much for one of thy stature. We are bound by the ties of kinship, dear Nicole." I did sit upright and maintained a tone most even and composed. "What of fair Claire?" My mother did pause, caught in a moment of uncertainty. "She doth not fare well in the wake of their parting. She hath fallen low. The toil doth not unfold as I had hoped. We must not impose upon her will." I did emit a gentle chuckle, not from spite, but rather for the sheer familiarity of it all. Claire was ever the steadfast soul, impervious to the weight of expectation, whilst I found myself the one who could bear the burden with grace. I gazed upon them with unwavering intent. "If Claire doth consent to furnish her share, $1,000, 0 cents each month, I shall bear the burden of the other half. Should it not be so, I shall require a binding agreement, one that distinctly proclaims that upon your departure from this mortal coil, all possessions, including the dwelling, shall rightfully be mine." In that chamber, a profound stillness reigned. Mine sire did furrow his brow, his visage turning a deep crimson hue. "Art thou truly imposing conditions upon thine own progenitors?" Mine mother did heave a sigh, and did blink her eyes. "Not stipulations. Tenets. Lo, I have bestowed upon this kin nearly $16,000, and naught but 0 cents, over the span of 2 years, yet not a soul hath deigned to acknowledge such generosity. If thou dost wish for my continuance, then matters must be made clear." My mother didst turn to my father, her voice beginning to tremble. "Perchance we ought to discourse upon the matter?" Yet he sprang from his seat, striking his hand upon the sturdy table, causing the goblets to tremble. "Forsooth, we nurtured her for more than 2 decades, and now, when we seek but a modicum of assistance, she doth require a binding agreement? Incredible, indeed." I remained in my place, mine gaze fixed upon him. "Father, I am not in your debt. If thou dost believe that rearing me was a venture requiring recompense, we may engage in a reckoning of sorts, verse by verse. Yet I shall no longer acquiesce in silence for its cost." He appeared as though he yearned to engage in dispute, yet he remained motionless, his lips sealed with tension. Mine own mother rose and softly grasped his arm. "Pray, let us embark forthwith." I too did stand, escorting them to the threshold. "Neither embrace nor affection shall be bestowed. Farewell is not in our fate." As the portal shut with a gentle finality, naught but the tender zephyr wafting in from the balcony lingered in the air. In that profound silence, I discerned the truth. Another act hath drawn to a close. And in this moment, it was I who penned the concluding verse. From that fateful day forth, my progenitors did not extend their hands in communication evermore. Neither summons nor missives dost arrive. No blame cast, nor a word of contrition for the tempest that had assailed my dwelling, as though each sorrow in their existence had been wrought by their wayward offspring. Yet I found no astonishment within me. I had become accustomed to such a profound stillness, the sort that arises not from shame or regret, but rather from those who lack the art of discourse when they find themselves bereft of dominion. I did persist in the journey of my existence. Serene dawns accompanied by the rich aroma of coffee, counsels of the mind that stretched into the twilight, sealing pacts with allies who once questioned the capabilities of a youthful maiden to steer a vessel of biotechnological endeavor. And amidst the tumult, I ceased to bear the weight of guilt upon my heart. I ceased to believe that I was in the wrong for declining the role of the secondary purse, the customary guardian, merely because I possessed the fortitude to manage it. Forsooth, one must come to grasp that affection cannot be quantified by the passage of months, nor compelled by a mere sense of obligation. If love doth flourish solely whilst the coffers are filled, then it is not kinship that we behold. It is but a mere exchange. I commenced severing the unseen threads that bound me to the parts they had bestowed upon me. No longer do I adorn my device with the visage of kin, for the family portrait hath been replaced. Alas, the day of Claire's birth slipped from my mind. I did not take note of the festive days to bestow a small token of my regard. I no longer lingered in the shadows of remorseful missives. I have come to place the final mark myself, rather than bide my time for them to commence with an expression of regret. Upon a certain day, in the midst of a gathering of minds, Liam, now duly appointed as the steward of our company's coffers, entered with a tome of investment findings in hand. With unwavering dedication and a demeanor of utmost respect, he toiled with a singular focus and a commendable professionalism, ever mindful of the space that separates one from another. Our discourse did not once wander to the subject of Claire, and I did hold that in high regard. There are matters, when grasped in their entirety, that are most wisely left in silence. That fateful afternoon, as I departed from the confines of my labor, a gentle rain did fall from the heavens. I didst make my way to a well-known café, selecting a perch by the window's embrace. Upon the wall there hung a sign, wrought of wood and carved with care. Home doth not always reside in a mere location. At times, it is a matter of selection. As I lingered in my seat, cradling a warm latte, I pondered the journey I had traversed. There was an era in which I held the conviction that by remaining silent, mild, and dutiful, acceptance would, in due course, be bestowed upon me. Yet verily, if thou dost permit others to grow accustomed to thy disrespect, they shall begin to perceive thy sacrifices as mere obligations, and thy silence as a form of consent. I did elect to rise and take my stand. To stand not in opposition to my kin, yet to safeguard mine own self. I have resolved to establish limits, not for the sake of my own desires, but rather for the clarity that has dawned upon me at last. Thy worth cannot be measured by the fleeting compassion or capricious desires of another. Should one inquire of me, dear interlocutor, whether I lament the absence of aid rendered to my progenitors in their hour of need, I would respond thus: I rue not the act itself, but rather the protracted journey it took for me to comprehend that I was worthy of far greater than such sacrifice. Forsooth, true kinship doth lie in the recognition of one as a complete being. Not a purse of coin. Not a mere substitute. Not the option of last resort for those who consistently place you in the shadows. Verily, I am aware that my tale may prove difficult for certain souls to embrace. In our realm, to spurn the call of kin is oft regarded as a mark of ingratitude. Yet, I beseech thee to don my guise. The maiden, cast aside for lacking the refinement deemed necessary for presentation. Thou who hast bestowed a fortune in quietude, yet never once didst hear a sound, art thou well? In the manner of fate's design, I did not select kin in the customary way. I have selected mine own self. Pray tell, what of thee? Dost thou believe I was overly frigid? Or hath the moment arrived when I have truly grasped the art of self-love? Pray, bestow thy musings in the comments below. Forsooth, at times, thy tale may serve as the beacon for another, caught in the tempest of obligation and liberty. And if thou hast ever felt solitary amidst thine own kin, trust me, thou art not alone. Nicole's tale serves as a poignant reminder that none are bound to forfeit their essence for a bond that, though adorned with the title of kin, is devoid of reverence. When thou dost learn to establish thine own limits, embrace the love of self, and cease allowing thy benevolence to be undervalued. That is not an act of self-interest. Lo, that is indeed a flourishing of the spirit. Nicole did not pursue retribution. She embraced a noble quietude to reaffirm her value. And at times, the most resolute deed is but the initial stride towards true tranquility. What dost thou think of Nicole's selection? Did she wield her words with excessive severity? Or did she, perchance, seek to shield her heart after enduring countless wounds? Pray, share thy musings below, and do not neglect to follow the channel for more profound and poignant tales concerning kinship.